You know how people are scared of heights? I, if I'm high enough, I am. But I also have this weird, like, I get that same feeling when I stand at the bottom of something really tall and look up. So Halloween 2021 was on a Sunday. I got a phone call from the pastor of my dad and my stepmom, asking me if I had heard from them recently. And I thought that was really strange. I knew there was something wrong, but I did get a phone call, and she started it off with, "I don't normally like to do this over the phone." I didn't grow up in a Christian home. My parents separated when I was about 2 years old. Then my dad, he met a woman at work and started dating, and she was a believer, and so he started going to church at first just to be with her. The first time I went, I just realized, the Spirit just spoke to me, and I realized this is real. And so from that point on, that was how I came to know the Lord, was originally through my stepmom. My brother and I were brothers. He was 12 years younger than me, and we got along. We would go do stuff together. We play golf together. I'd take him to the drive-in. Being 12 years apart, but I loved having a little brother. It's an interesting story how our family got into missions. Our church mission committee asked us if we wanted to go on a trip to Mozambique to visit some missionaries that we supported there. We went, and both of us left there realizing the Lord was calling us into full-time missions and was using this trip to do it. And that was really hard for both of us. Again, we had 3 young girls, and we had an established life. We went on that trip, really spent a lot of time praying about it, and got back on a Friday, and by the following Sunday, both of us knew this is what the Lord was calling us to. After we came back from Mozambique, my brother got his first domestic violence charge for being physical with my parents. I knew I needed to protect my girls, so we didn't come around as much. I would meet my dad places with our family. I would meet my brother in places. He would come visit sometimes, but at that point wasn't allowed to stay the night at our house. Shortly after that, he got another domestic violence. When he came to visit and we played golf, that was the last time that I had seen my brother. I got a message from someone on Facebook that told me she was their neighbor, my parents' neighbor. So I called her, and she didn't tell me what had happened, but just assumed that I had spoken with the police. And I told her I hadn't, so she just walked up to a police officer. She did tell them that they needed to call me since I was the one that had called, and so then I knew there was something wrong. I don't remember if it was the sheriff or the police, but I did get a phone call, and she told me that both my dad and my stepmom had been murdered. They were found in the home, and couldn't share a whole lot more than that. I didn't have any questions right then. I was just in shock. So I spent the whole night just trying to process this and what had happened. They had arrested my brother for the crime, but I didn't want to say anything to anyone until I knew more. And so that morning, I didn't want to do it at night. So the next morning I shared with my daughters just that my parents had passed away and we didn't know all the details yet. And then after, one of the detectives called, and I was able to ask more questions, and he was able to share all the evidence was pointing towards it being my brother, and was pretty sure that it had been him. I didn't know how best to handle that with my girls, because that's a pretty hard label to put on someone. As soon as I knew that they were pretty sure that he was the one that had done it, I also shared that with my daughters.
And hearing of their passing, I just remember my heart dropping for Darren and his family and his daughters, just knowing the trauma of that, and also like knowing the situation itself and the days after, but also knowing how it completely shifts your life for months and years.
When we got the word, it was just weeping first, and then there's just no words to describe the horrific nightmare that my good friend has had to go through.
The detective also told me that they'd had to break in the door to get into the house because it had been locked, and that they tried to secure it as much as they could, but it was still a crime scene. I had 4 amazing friends. They went with me, and they went into the house. They went in and secured the front door and grabbed any paperwork that we might need and pictures, and just did something that friend should never have to do for anyone else. You know, it's really hard because I feel like I not only lost my dad and my stepmom that day, but I feel like I lost my brother. The one thing I want to ask is why. But, you know, I met with the prosecuting attorney shortly after it happened, and she told me everybody wants to know why. But no matter what answer he gives, it's not going to be enough. You know, my hope for this situation is just that somehow, in some way, that it can bring glory to God. I really, that's my desire through this whole story, because there's really no other way that I would have made it this far without him.
You know, something about Darren is he's a man who loves God, he's a man who's compassionate, and he's a man of his word. And through those qualities, he's impacted many people.
And so if you've ever been around him, like Darren's a very, you just look at him, he just beams this hope and this kind of inner joy, even in the midst of all the struggles and trials and things that he's been going through in life. And I think that still shows through.
I know that there's a reason that this happened. I want people to see us come through this horrific situation and see that our faith is stronger than ever.